300D buyer's guide, better than the 123 or not?
Why?
I may be opening a can of worms here, but last week one of our subscribers requested sort of a brief 124 buyer's guide, and I thought that that would be kind of a good idea. So I'm going to do one. The 124 series cars are good cars. I'd certainly have one, over a 210 or a 211 or really any other Mercedes. They were infamous for really being the last Mercedes body style that was infinitely repairable and serviceable, although most of the serviceability in the cars was also marred by the fact that several components weren't as good as they could have been. For example, on all 6-cylinder gas and all turbo diesel versions, 300D turbo, 300D 2.5 turbo, the head gaskets weren't so great. And on the 603 turbo diesels, as you know, the cylinder heads had some issues. So you've got those top-end problems. On the 103 engines, valve stem seals were a real pain in the butt too, as were valve guides eventually. I had a 300E in 1987 that burned like a quart of oil every 400 miles because of bad valve guides. So, but it also had 288,000 miles on it. Another thing about the 124 are the AC evaporators. While they are some of the easier ones to change, I mean, you still have to pull the dash and the center console, but they're not as bad as some of the other cars. The 124 did have evaporator problems because of differential materials. To compare this to a 123, this never happened. Same thing with the head gaskets. In a 123 turbo diesel, it was very rare, unless you were highly unfortunate to have to do any cylinder head work on a 123. On a 124, with the evaporators and with the cylinder heads, there's some additional work there. Also in 1990, when Mercedes made the reverse clutch pack less durable by adding more spring tension to the reverse return spring, it means reverse gear failures are higher on those 722.3 and 4 transmissions. So watch out for that. But generally, this isn't a problem on the 89 and earlier cars, or as much of a problem. The build quality of the 124 is something you really have to watch out for. While dashboards are somewhat better, the things like the A-pillars, the headliners, especially in the later cars, freaking the headliners, they were just awful. Door panels coming off easily, those things weren't as good, but the quality of the seats stayed consistent or even better than earlier Mercedes. The fact that they didn't have glue in windshields is wonderful because you never had to change a windshield gasket. The durability of the sunroof function was actually pretty good. Changing center vent actuators in the 124 is awful because you have to pull the dash. So if you have to change climate control actuators in any car, it's much better when it's a 123 because in the 124 the whole dash has to come out. Some people like doing this though, so I can't necessarily blame them. Another aspect of the 124 that makes ownership difficult are plastic body parts in the older cars. On a 123, if your bumper impact strip comes off for about $96 in parts and a big hammer, you can put those back on. But in the 124, for about $2,000 in parts, you can buy 2 new front and rear bumpers. And if you think that the aftermarket bumper covers are any good, they're really not. You're just buying time till you have to buy a new part. So that's also something to consider. The black trim on the 124s can be a real pain, especially the mirror boots, which are $250 each. I never had to do anything to my power mirrors on the 123s other than, some of the cars, their front right passenger power mirror doesn't work. But if the mirror is in the right position, then it's not so big of a problem. Now, the 124 had some areas where it did not rust as badly as the 123s. I think about this, like the battery tray. That's one where the 123s are really bad about rusting and the 124s aren't. The trunk wells, the bottoms of the doors, the bottoms of the fenders, all these areas in the 123s were pretty bad, and in the 124 they were kind of harmless. On the 124, You do have to check for rust around the back window still, and you do have to check for rust, you know, around the jack points and around the wheel arches if the car was driven up north. But generally, their bodies are pretty corrosion resistant. And then this just got better as time went on. Now, as far as 124s go, which one is my favorite? Well, this boils down to really three cars. First of all, I like the 400E a lot, or the E420. I think it's a pretty good car. It's like my number 4. My top 3 124s. First of all, 95 E300. I don't know of any other diesel engine that runs so smoothly at 4,000 RPM and almost 100 miles an hour. I mean, you know, that was the 4-valve 606 non-turbo engine was just an amazing engine, and it's like Mercedes took it to a whole new level with that engine. Unfortunately, I think that they really overcomplicated it when they came out with the 210 E300 turbo diesel, but that's a story for another day. Next, probably the 86, 87 300E with a 5-speed, or really any 5-speed 300E. I drove one on a road trip when I was 24. I always put it in the back of my head that if a good one ever came up, I'd buy it. My current 300E is an 86 with 53,000 miles. I bought it when I sold my nice 93 black car to my friend Aaron, who recently sold it on Bring a Trailer, and it brought a record price of $16,000. If you guys haven't seen that auction, I thought it was a really great car. It had nothing to do with me. It was just the fact it was a damn good 124. My third one is probably a car we didn't get here, the 124 300D non-turbo. Also with stick, but automatic is preferable. The 603 engine without a turbo diesel is really a great engine. It's not like any of the crappy aluminum head Nissan diesels, or you know, the Peugeot 2.5 4-cylinder aluminum head EFI turbo diesels. You know, these things made great power for a non-turbo, then they were super efficient. And, you know, I just really like those cars. And so there are some other top picks I have that I think are really good. 88, 89, 300 CE because of the M103 engine. The 1994, 95 E320 Coupe, beautiful, stylish car. After you get done spending 10 grand on a head gasket and wiring harness and all that stuff, which I think most of you are aware of the wiring harness issues on the E320, and the 500E and 400E and similar cars. But just so you know, it's not just the injection harness, it's every harness that comes in contact with the motor. The lower harness, the starter harness, whatever you want to call it, it's all of them. Even the throttle actuator harness, they're all bad. And this is a big problem because on none of my 123s did I ever have to do a harness. You know, it's like there's barely a wiring harness to replace. Anyway, still more so than all these cars, I think it speaks volumes that I have a 300D and a 300 SD that I drive regularly. But I think that the 124 is a solid car, and if you like them, don't run away. And if you're looking at a 124 versus a newer Mercedes, stick with the 124. It's going to teach you to become a better mechanic. Anyway, if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave us a comment below. And don't forget to let your opinions be voiced in the comments. If you think the 124 was a better car than the 123, let me know why. I might even consider what you're saying. And then if you're supporting us on Patreon, thank you again. We really appreciate it. This video was made possible by Patreon members that put Thomas's gas in his tank diesel in his tank so he could come out here and shoot videos. Okay, so enjoy your 124 and your 123 or whatever classic Mercedes you have. Have a great day.